Hello and welcome. We're glad you have joined us. My name is Amit New. I'm a Microsoft technical trainer specializing in security and AI. I am here to walk you through the AZ-305 course, Design Infrastructure Solutions. In this module, Design Authentication and Authorization Solutions, we are focusing on something I'm personally very passionate about, identity and access management. Because in the cloud, identities are basically our new perimeter. We have seen more incidents caused by identity misconfiguration than by hackers in hoodies. No joke. In this session, we will cover Design Authentication and Authorization Solutions Part 1. We will cover Design for Identity and Access Management, Design for Entra ID, Design for Entra B2B, Design for Microsoft Entra External ID, Design for Conditional Access, and Design for Identity Protection. First, let's clarify. Authentication is who you are. Authorization is what you are allowed to do. Think of it like a concert. Authentication checks your ticket. Authorization decides if you're in VIP or in the general crowd. So, let's get started with the session. We will start with Design for Identity and Access Management, or IAM. It's the discipline of managing identities, users, groups, applications, devices, and controlling what they can access, under which conditions, and with what proof. Times have changed. For years, security was built around a simple idea. If everything behind a firewall, it must be safe. We used to say, trust but verify. But today, the reality looks very different. Our people are mobile, our apps live in the cloud, and our data is everywhere. The old perimeter just doesn't exist anymore. And if we want to reduce risk, we need to flip our thinking. Think of security like an airport screening. Just because you're inside the terminal doesn't mean you can walk onto any plane. Every step is checked. Identity, ticket, destination, and the risk. That's zero trust. We never assume trust. We assume breach, and we verify explicitly every time. Who you are, what device you're on, and whether this access still makes sense right now. Even when the access is granted, we apply list privileges. Only what's needed for as long as it's needed. Just enough, just in time. This means designing systems that expect failure, limit the blast radius, and stay resilient by default, not hoping the firewall still holds. A zero-trust approach extends throughout our digital estate and serves as an integrated security philosophy end-to-end strategy. When applied to Azure, it requires a multidisciplinary approach that addresses infrastructure, networking, identity, data protection systematically. The goal is to make an informed decision per request by leveraging unified policy enforcement. The Zero Trust policy intercepts the request and explicitly verifies the signals from all 6 foundational elements based on the policy configuration and enforces least privileged access. In the Microsoft Cybersecurity Reference Architecture, you can find the details and guidance on how to plan your end-to-end security architecture using Zero Trust principles. Zero Trust isn't just a buzzword. It's a game plan for your whole digital environment. In Azure, it means thinking about security from every angle, from the infra, from the network, from the identity, the endpoints, the app, and data protection. Instead of blindly trust, you check every request every time using a unified Zero Trust policy. It looks at the signals from the key areas and makes sure users get only the access that they need, no more, no less. If you would like to dive deeper, take a look at the Microsoft Cybersecurity Reference Architecture for guidance on how to plan your end-to-end security architecture using the Zero Trust principles. This will include the technology mapping for the Azure implementation to protect your identities, devices, data, application, network, and other infrastructure resources to make an informed decision per request. So, which tool do we need? It's based on our scenario. If we need identity management for employees in the cloud or hybrid environment, we can use Microsoft Entra ID. If we need collaboration with partners and vendors, we can use Entra B2B. If we need customer to sign up and sign in to enable profile management, we have Entra External ID. Notice the lifecycle. Identities are unified. Access is controlled with role-based access control, validated with conditional access, monitored with identity protection, and periodically confirmed with access reviews. Now, we zoom into the workforce directory, Microsoft Entra ID, our own identity and access management platform for all cloud operations, to allow secure access for users, for groups, applications, and devices. Want to get started? Just sign in. If you're not authenticated, you can't get in. It's as simple as that. Think of Entra ID as your all-in-one entrance point, cloud-based hub for identity and access management. It's built for both cloud and hybrid setups and keeps every organization data completely separated in its own tenant or directory. With Entra ID, you get a secure place to control who can access and what. It brings together the cloud users, synced on-premises users, and even guest access, all in one directory. Whether your identity lives in the cloud or in your own servers, Entra tools make sure that you can sign in with the same account everywhere. The real win? Consistency and simplicity. IT teams manage identities in one spot. Security settings are applied everywhere, and users enjoy easy single sign-on across all of their applications. It's safe, it's straightforward, and it just works. Meet Contoso, a global company looking for a hybrid identity solution to centralize security and access. They have their local admin group that needs to get started quickly. Philip, Daniela, and Yasmin needs to get started by configuring all the cloud workloads so other users will be able to start using them as well. In their own premises, they have some database servers, application servers, all managed by their domain controllers. They also have some local policies applied on top organizational units. They're using Kerberos and LDAP to securely access file shares and collecting logs through maps or a DPM. In order for Contoso to be able to start consuming Azure, they have realized they need to consider some synchronization solutions so they will not start from scratch and bring their identities from on-premises to the cloud. They can do it with Microsoft Entra Connect. That will help them bring the identities with hash passwords to make sure that they can log in both to on-premises and clouds using the same credentials. This will be done on top of a secure transfer, allowing us to centralize the management for all authentication requests in Entra ID. They also had some legacy operation that required legacy authentication, but they did not want to do it in front of their local domain controllers, so they can use Entra Domain Services that is built in on the background for auto-synchronization. Now, all of their identities are centralized in the Entra ID tenant, both their users, groups, devices, and application. They can also allow seamless collaboration with partners through Entra B2B collaboration, invite guests into their environment, providing them with group assignments and roles that are needed. When the users are authenticated using their service principals, they can then be granted with permissions into the Azure resource environment. Next up, collaborating with people outside your organization. Designed for Microsoft Entra business to business. Entra business to business is how you invite a trusted guest without giving them your house keys. The key idea is that partners bring their own identity. We invite them and they show up as guests in our directory. We control everything except their password that stays within their home tenant. That's actually a feature, not a bug. This centralized identity management approach is working perfectly for joint project or short-term external staff. For example, we hired an external marketing expert to design our website. They need access to our backend resources. So we will invite them to the tenant and provide granular access while enjoying from all the security benefits like conditional access, multi-factor authentication enforcements from Entra ID. Microsoft Entra External ID combines powerful solutions for working with people outside of your organization. It is a flexible solution for both consumer-oriented apps, developers need authentication and authorization, and business seeking secure B2B collaboration. Let's zoom out and understand our collaboration options. With external ID capabilities, you can allow external identities to securely access your apps and resources. But mixing employees and customers in the same tenant is like mixing staff badges and visitor badges. It gets messy fast. That's why we have adopted two patterns. The workforce tenant collaboration for partners, guest collaboration inside your workforce tenant, like the B2B. And the external tenant collaboration, customers sign in and sign up to application via external identities. Also note the industry change. The Azure AD B2C is end of sale for new customers, so for new designs, external tenant is the direction. With external ID, customers sign in with their identity, the one that they already have. You can customize and control how the customers sign up and sign in when using your applications. Because of this, identity and access management capabilities are built in to external ID. You also benefit from the Entra platform features like enhanced security, compliance, and scalability. Now we get to one of the most powerful tools, conditional access, the policy engine for making informed decisions. This is where zero trust becomes real. Conditional access answers, should we allow this request and under what conditions? We will collect all the signals from every single request, the identity requesting the access, the target application or operation, which device and its state, the request location, the client application, and even associated risk. Then we can pause, evaluate, and make an informed decision whether to allow the access, deny it, or enforce additional controls such as multi-factor authentication. Conditional access policies allow us to define our own rules, automate and govern security for all access to our workloads. We can start fast with provided templates for zero trust, remote work, and more. We can use the What If tool to test in advance. Use the report-only mode to see the impact before enforcing. This includes common use cases such as enforcement for MFA for all the users, force-compliant devices for accessing sensitive applications, or even block risky sign-ins requests. Murphy's Law, the one account you forgot to protect is the one that gets abused. Lucky us, we now have a great agent to help us exactly with that. The Microsoft Entra Conditional Access Optimization Agent. It helps you ensure all users, application, and even agent identities are protected by conditional access policies. Remember we have mentioned that conditional access policy can block risky users? Identity protection is the risk signal engine. This is how we detect the risk associated with the user or with the signing. Furthermore, it can remediate the risk in real time. So, how do we design for identity protection? Identity protection automates detection and remediation of identity-based risks. It detects things like leaked credential, anonymous IP addresses, atypical travel or password spray, and allows you to act on it. All you need is to configure the policies for the user risk and sign-in risk with appropriate user-level assignment or group, the threshold level, and the controls. You can't control what is a risk, but you can control what is your response to that risk. We recommend using a low threshold for higher security and a high threshold for higher productivity, but lower security. We recommend high level of a threshold for user risk policy to prevent attacks that target the user credential. We recommend medium and above threshold for the sign-in risk policy. Those settings support the identity protection self-remediation options. With both policies, you can block the access by risk detection. In user risk, we can remediate for password change, and for sign-in risk by prompting for MFA. When we need additional conditions or controls, we will use conditional access policies. Beyond detection and remediation, you can get down into the details and investigate the risk. You can export the risk detection data to other tools if needed. Keep in mind that enhanced security features like identity protection require additional per-user licensing. Let's go for a demo. In this demo, we will plan for secure access. We will detect and mitigate sign-in risk in real time with Microsoft Entra ID identity protection and conditional access policies. Let's start planning our secure access strategy with Entra identity protection. When we're going into identity protection, we have a dashboard to assess our security posture from an identity perspective. The number of attacks blocked, users protected, high-risk users, types of attacks in the tenant, and additional metrics that can serve us well in planning our secure access solution. After we assess where we are, we can start defining the rules that will govern access requests. We will use conditional access policies. Conditional access policies are allowing us to enforce controls like multi-factor authentication or password change based on conditions we define. That will help us mitigate identity-based risks. We can start by creating a new policy from scratch or leverage templates. Let's start with a template. We want to make sure that our environment is following the Zero Trust principles to assume breach, verify explicitly, and use least privileges. So let's choose from the Zero Trust policies. Specifically, we would like to mitigate risky sign-in requests. We have many templates to help us mitigate various threats with minimum effort. Here is a perfect match. Require multi-factor authentication for risky sign-ins. Let's use it. It comes in a report-only mode by default, which is great for auditing. Let's enable it to enforce controls. It will include all users, excluding my current user, so I will not lock myself out. It is always a good idea to plan for emergency access. It will apply to all cloud apps, and it will act on detected sign-in risk from identity protection on a medium and high level. Access is granted only after passing multi-factor authentication, and it will require a new sign-in for each session. Let's create it. It will take a few moments for the policy to take effect. I will use another user named Elsa, a member of my organization with reader permission on my subscription and multi-factor authentication enabled to test the policy. I will use Tor browser to anonymize my IP address. This is considered a medium-level risk. Let's sign in with Elsa. Look at that! Suspicious activity detected, just as expected. Identity protection acts in real time. Whenever something is unusual about our request, we will be requested to verify ourselves. We will verify our identity using multi-factor authentication with the Microsoft Authenticator app. Only after remediating the risk, I can log into the Azure portal. Perfect. Now, let's go back into our admin account and understand what kind of visibility we have in the report. I really love the risky sign-in report because it contained conditional access and MFA information as well. Let's check all the risk states, including remediated. Alright, let's see what happened to Elsa. We can see that Elsa preformed an interactive sign-in to the Azure portal. We can see the full request details and that it was successful. We get the device information and the risk info, as well as the status remediated. It was detected in real time, in medium level, by identity protection. Since we passed the multi-factor authentication, the risk was remediated. We can check out the MFA info. We can see that the MFA requirement was satisfied. We can also see which conditional access policies were applied or enabled in a report-only mode to collect the details. Elsa's risk was remediated. Other users in this report are at risk, like Benjamin and Lee. They both have failed requests. Let's see Benjamin's request. We can see that Benjamin was trying to sign in to the Azure portal, but this time the status is a failure. The MFA info is empty since he was failing to follow all of the conditional access policy controls. That resulted in a failure for the sign-in request. We have successfully planned, implemented, and mitigated sign-in risk. Let's go back to the presentation. In this session, we have covered the Design Authentication and Authorization Solutions Part 1. Design for Identity and Access Management, Design for Microsoft Entra ID, Design for Microsoft Entra B2B, and Design for Microsoft Entra External Identities, as well as Design for Conditional Access and Identity Protection. Continue with Part 2 to learn more about Design Authentication and Authorization Solutions. This concludes our session. There are many ways to continue your learning journey. We encourage you to watch other videos in this course or search out your next favorite topic on Microsoft Learn at aka.ms/learn. I'm Amit Nir. Have a happy learning.